it's Shaina and Kim here. We brought our bestest friend over here, Miss Crowe, Dr. Crowe. She is an equine vet, and she's going to give us some pointers today about the cold weather that's coming in and how to keep your equines safe during this cold snap. Dr. Crowe, what do we got looking at us today?
We couldn't have timed this any better.
Right?
It went from 70 degrees yesterday afternoon, and as you know, this morning we're down in the 20s. It's only going to get colder Monday. It's even going to be worse.
Yeah.
I think the most important thing to remember is that horses, healthy horses, not the very young, not the very old, certainly nothing that's sick, do very well with cold weather. They don't do well with wet and cold.
Right.
So one of the first things you've got to think about is to keeping them dry. If you've got a shelter, if you've got a casita, if you can get them into a barn, if you can get them into a barn aisleway, bring your pasture horses into an aisleway. If we're going to have a big rain, ice, snow event and they're going to get wet, that's what you need to do. If it's going to stay dry, they can stay outside. And the age-old argument is to blanket or not to blanket.
That was my next question.
Yeah, I know. If they are, again, healthy horses and they've been allowed to grow a decent winter coat, you're better off to not blanket them, because they piloerect. There's little muscles that raise every little individual hair follicle. And when they do that, they trap their body heat against their body. You lay a rug on them or a blanket on them, it traps that hair down, and they can't trap the heat. And it becomes very difficult then, and especially in North Texas, when do you put that blanket on and when do you take that blanket off? So letting them do it nature's way is a good way to go.
Yeah.
Obviously, if it's a newborn foal, if it's a 27-year-old mare, if there's any kind of health problem, whatever, we've probably got to get them blanketed, hooded, under a heat lamp, whatever you have to do to make them comfortable.
Yeah.
Second to keeping them dry and letting them deal with the cold themselves is water. They have to have constant access, or as constant as you can make it, access to fresh water. Horses have thirst in waves. They're not like you or me, where I'm thirsty right now, but I can wait an hour. Right. Horses get a thirst wave, and if everything is frozen and there's no water right there, they may not have another thirst wave for a while. If you're watering your horses or breaking ice and your horse is running to start gulping water, they've gone way too long and they've already started to dehydrate. Ooh. So we'll be breaking, my crew's breaking water right now. And we'll break water every hour. We'll get through all the pastures and start over again and just keep breaking. And kind of a practical thing, and don't want anybody to think I'm being too meatball here this morning, when you break water on those big tanks, take the ice chunks out.
Right.
It is lazy to leave the ice in there, and it'll refreeze within minutes. You won't make it to the next pasture. So get those ice chunks out. Get you an axe, get you a pitchfork, get you some waterproof gloves, and make sure those horses have got as much water as you can get for them.
So what about the horses that aren't experiencing that thirst wave? You know, there's that conversation of salt and no salt and electrolytes.
I am a big salt person. Horses need salt. Salt drives them to their water. And horses are like humans in that they're very unique in the animal kingdom, and that is they lose salts through their perspiration. And while you might not think your horse is salt deprived right now, if it was 70 degrees yesterday afternoon, they had their winter coat on and they were perspiring, they weren't just losing water, they were losing salt too. A lot of my clients will say, oh, I don't need to put a salt block in because I top dress their feed with salt. Well, I don't know, you don't know, no owner knows how much salt that animal needs. Maybe you gave too much, maybe you gave too little, maybe you were perfect. I believe in salt blocks. Yeah. I like the big pasture blocks in the stall. I like the big pasture blocks in a rubber container so that it doesn't melt into the ground by every waterer. I am a huge believer that every horse needs access to salt. I love the little Himalayan salts on ropes in the stalls. Yeah. I think those are great and horses like them.
They do. Do you have yours out?
Yeah.
I got mine out.
Yeah, I've got mine out. And in the stall too.
And in the stall.
Yeah. The other little thing we do, and I encourage people to do, is if your horse has got an ability to go in or out and the bad weather is coming, don't feed them and water them outside. Do what you can to put their food and their water inside. That way they don't have to choose between being dry and warm or being hungry or thirsty. Right. And of course, a big way that the horse generates heat is eating. They have a cecum, they have a colon, they actually break down cellulose, that produces heat. And you don't produce that much heat with grain. I certainly don't recommend mashes, but you do that with hay and with pasture. So good quality hay. Yeah. And the only caveat with the good quality hay here in Texas is that many of us, including us, are feeding coastal.
Yes.
Right.
And when you're buying your coastal, you don't want to buy the beautiful angel hair coastal that you can wrap around your finger 10 times. It looks like a baby's hair. That's the stuff that'll wad up in the ilium and cause ileal impaction. I buy coastal that's as thick, broad stemmed, broad leafed as I can get, and then when I wrap it around my finger, it breaks cracks, because when the horse chews it, it'll break into little bits. I'm a surgeon. I was a surgeon at the University of Illinois and at the University of Georgia, and I cut way too many ileal impactions, and it just looks like a hair clog, like you get out of your shower or your sink when you take it out of a horse's ileum.
Okay, so on that, let me ask you another question. What about turnouts? You put them up for feeding, and then what's your recommendation as far as nice weather? It's a little bit of sunshine. They need to get out and run and play. And
Absolutely. I'm a back to basics girl. And if you look at the horse as a species, what was it meant to do? God meant that horse to walk and graze 16 hours a day.
Right.
We put them in a stall, they can't walk. That's abnormal. When it gets really, really cold, horses quit moving around. That's abnormal.
Right.
And we purge feed. And so we only feed them 2, 3, if a horse is really lucky, maybe 4 times a day. I say as many times as you can get that horse out, as long as the ground is safe, as long as it's not solid ice, you are way ahead of the game to do that. They need to move, they need to have access to exercise, and if they've got something, even if they have to dig through snow to get down to some of that greeny grass, that'll do it.
Right.
When I was at the University of Illinois, we were recovering surgeries. We were at Champaign-Urbana, where the weather was incredibly bad. They used to make fun of me, but I would bundle up. I'd bundle up my post-colic patients. I would take them out, and I would have areas of grass that we had scraped all of the snow away. And horses that wouldn't eat would get under there and eat that grass from underneath the snow. And they used to make fun of me, but I swear my horses recovered better that way.
Right.
That's
Good.
awesome.
Yeah. That's great information.
It is.
You bet. Glad to do it.
Yeah.
Hope everybody keeps their horses safe and sound through this bad spell.
Yeah, hopefully it's not very long, because, Texas, the weather changes in a minute like we experienced today, and maybe it will just change back to being warm.
That's the old saying, if you don't like the weather in North Texas, just hang around.
It'll
a while.
change.
Just hang around a while. In Alaska or, northern people, can you take your weather back? It's in the front yard.
True.
Yeah,
I like
we
it.
don't like it.
I like it.
Thanks so much for being here
My
with
pleasure.
us. We
Anytime.
appreciate it.
Come back.
All right, we will.
Okay.
Thank